Hi, I'm Chad with Move Forward Guitar. This lesson is from our series Guitar Chords for Beginners. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to play an open E7 chord. Here's an open E7 chord. And this is a really useful chord, and it can be really useful for you to learn as a beginner, although I don't personally recommend learning it as one of the first chords, because I think there's other chords that are more common and more useful for you to learn early on. And if you look in the description, there's links to those chords that I think you should learn first. But there are a lot of teachers that teach this chord early on, and if you're learning the blues, this is a really useful chord that you would need for the blues. So it's up to you whether you want to learn it as one of the first chords or not. But like I said, I don't recommend doing that, but it's really up to you. And this chord would only be in the key of A if you're playing in the major scale keys. This is that's the only key that it fits in, this E7 chord. And if you're playing in the key of A and playing this chord, it really sounds like it wants to move back to the open A major chord, or to the A major chord to end. So if you're playing this, it doesn't really sound like it rests. It sounds like it needs to move to that A chord to end. So if you hear this, it really sounds like once you hit that A chord, that's where it's resting, not really on the E7 chord. So that's typically how you would use it if you're in the key of A. But if you're playing the blues, you would use it totally different than that. You wouldn't have to go back to the A to rest. You could end on the E7 if you're playing an E blues. So it just depends on the situation. But if you're in the major scale keys, it would only be in the key of A, and it would typically sound like it needs to go back to that A major chord to rest. So there's a couple ways you can fret this chord, finger this chord. The first way is like I just played, which is your second finger on the 5th string, 2nd fret, and then your first finger on the 3rd string, 1st fret. And then all the other strings that you're not fretting are open, so you just strum through all the strings. So that's one way. The other way is to replace your 1st and 2nd fingers with your 2nd and 3rd fingers, like this. So that would be your 3rd finger on the 5th string, 2nd fret, and your 2nd finger on the 3rd string, 1st fret. And it really just depends on the playing situation what's going to work best for that situation in your transitions. If you're going from an open E major chord to an E7 chord, then you're just releasing your 3rd finger, and that's the 1st finger in that I showed you, so it'd be like this. But in other situations, you'll fret it like this, so it really depends on the playing situation. And with this chord, you just really have to be on the tips of your fingers to avoid any of the open strings. So that's going to probably be the toughest part about this. Since you're only fretting 2 notes, that's not too difficult. It's just making sure that you're really on the tips of your fingers and not meeting out any of the open strings. So that's an open E7 chord.